Have you ever been promised something that seemed too good to be true? A deal that offered comfort and ease, but at a hidden cost. Today we face such a proposition, trading our God-given rights for the illusion of security. This seductive whisper promises safety from the uncertainties of life, but at what price? Are we willing to surrender the very freedoms that define us as Americans, as children of God, for a fleeting sense of security? The answer, my fellow patriots, must be a resounding no. We are blessed to live in a nation founded on the principles of individual liberty and limited government. Our founding fathers, those courageous men who dared to challenge tyranny, understood that true security comes not from surrendering our rights but from safeguarding them. They enshrined these rights in our Constitution, a sacred document that serves as the bedrock of our republic. The Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments, guarantees our fundamental freedoms, including the right to free speech, the right to assemble, the right to worship according to our conscience, and the right to defend ourselves and our loved ones. These rights are not mere privileges granted by the government. They are inherent, God-given rights that precede any government. They are the birthright of every American citizen, and they are essential to our individual flourishing and to the health of our nation. To surrender these rights, even in the name of security, is to betray the legacy of liberty bequeathed to us by our forefathers and to undermine the very foundations of our republic. In the face of uncertainty and fear, it is tempting to seek solace in the arms of an all-powerful state, to believe that if we simply relinquish enough of our freedoms, the government can protect us from all harm. But this is a dangerous illusion, a siren song that leads to tyranny. History is replete with examples of governments that, once entrusted with too much power, inevitably turn on their own citizens. What would you be willing to trade? Would you trade your right to free speech for the ability to never be offended by anything? Imagine never hearing a viewpoint you disagree with. It sounds peaceful, but at what cost? The diversity of thought, the richness of debate, and the essence of democracy would be lost. How about the freedom of assembly for the ability to travel anywhere for free? Hopefully you don't plan on going to a family reunion. The gatherings that strengthen our communities and hold our leaders accountable would fade into memory. Would you trade freedom of religion for freedom from religion? Never have to hear about someone else's God, but consider the loss of faith, the guiding light for so many and the moral compass that steers our society. Would you trade your right to question your government for a free meal every day? Better not ask them, what's for dinner? The right to challenge authority, to demand transparency, and to ensure justice would vanish. How about your right to self-defense in exchange for the government's promise to keep you safe? But then, who will protect you from the government? A monopoly on force by the state is a dangerous precedent, one that history has shown can lead to tyranny. Would you trade your right to be secure in your person and property for free rent? Then the government gets to come into your home without notice anytime they want. The sanctity of your home, your personal space, and your privacy would be compromised. These trades may seem tempting, but they come at a steep price. The conveniences offered are but chains in disguise, binding us to a life devoid of true freedom. As we ponder these choices, we must remember the wisdom of our founders and the sacrifices made for the liberties we enjoy today. The cost of convenience is far too high when it means surrendering the very essence of what it means to be free. Imagine a world where you cannot speak your mind freely, where you cannot gather with like-minded individuals to worship or to petition your government for redress of grievances. Imagine a world where you are stripped of your ability to defend yourself and your family from those who would do you harm. This is not a scene from a dystopian novel. It is the inevitable outcome of trading our God-given rights for the false promise of security. Consider the right to free speech. Some argue that we must restrict speech that is offensive or hateful, that we must silence those with whom we disagree. But who decides what is offensive or hateful? Who becomes the arbiter of truth? Once we start down the slippery slope of censorship, it is all too easy to justify silencing any voice that challenges the status quo, any opinion that differs from the prevailing orthodoxy. The same is true of the right to assemble. The government may claim that it is restricting gatherings in the name of public safety, but this power can easily be abused to suppress dissent and to prevent citizens from exercising their right to peacefully assemble and to petition their government. History teaches us that the right to assemble is essential to holding those in power accountable and to preventing tyranny. And what of the right to worship freely? The freedom of religion is the cornerstone of a free society. It guarantees our right to believe and to practice our faith without fear of persecution. Yet even today, we see attempts to erode this fundamental right, to force individuals and institutions to conform to the dictates of the state. We must resist these encroachments with every fiber of our being, for once we surrender our right to worship according to our conscience, we have surrendered our very souls. Freedom of religion does not mean freedom from religion. Benjamin Franklin, one of our nation's most brilliant minds, famously said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." These words ring as true today as they did in Franklin's time. They serve as a stark reminder that security purchased at the price of liberty is no security at all. It is a fool's bargain, one that will inevitably leave us enslaved to the very government we entrusted to protect us. The Founding Fathers understood the seductive nature of power and the tendency for governments to overreach. They had witnessed firsthand the dangers of tyranny under British rule, and they were determined to create a government that would protect individual liberty, not infringe upon it. They knew that the greatest threat to freedom comes not from external enemies, but from the gradual erosion of our rights by our own government. They designed a system of government with limited and enumerated powers, dividing power between the government and the people, and creating a system of checks and balances within the federal government itself. They understood that the best way to prevent tyranny was to divide power, to ensure that not one branch of government became too powerful. The Constitution, a covenant, not a suggestion. The Constitution is not a living document to be reinterpreted according to the whims of each generation. It is a binding contract, a sacred covenant between the government and the governed. Its words have meaning, and its principles are timeless. To suggest that the Constitution is outdated, or that its protections no longer apply in the 21st century, is to fundamentally misunderstand the nature of our republic. The Bill of Rights is not a menu from which the government can pick and choose which rights to uphold. It is a list of our most fundamental freedoms, freedoms that are essential to a free and just society. Each and every one of these rights must be vigilantly guarded against government encroachment. To allow the government to infringe upon any of these rights, no matter how well-intentioned the motive, is to set a dangerous precedent, one that will inevitably lead to further erosion of our freedoms. The Founding Fathers understood that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. They knew that a free people must be ever watchful for attempts to erode their rights, and they must be prepared to defend those rights against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The Founding Fathers' vision, a nation built on liberty. Imagine the courage it took for our Founding Fathers to stand up to the most powerful empire on earth and declare their independence. They risked everything, their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor, for the cause of liberty. They believed that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These were not just lofty ideals. They were the very principles upon which our nation was founded. The Founding Fathers understood that government is a necessary evil, a double-edged sword that can be used to protect liberty or to destroy it. They knew that the only legitimate purpose of government is to secure our God-given rights, not to infringe upon them. They believed that the best government is one that governs least, one that allows individuals to live their lives freely, without undue interference from the state. They envisioned a nation where individuals are free to pursue their own happiness, to worship as they see fit, to speak their minds without fear of reprisal, to assemble peacefully, to petition their government, and to defend themselves and their property. They believed that a free and virtuous citizenry is the best defense against tyranny,